All right. Hello. It seems like it's been forever, but we are back with another Lightning Ventures founder interview. And I'm here with Zach Herbert. I'm the Muzzman. We both have our game day shirts on today. All right. The
Yeah.
Foundation and the Lightning Ventures shirts. And Zach is co-founder and CEO of Foundation Devices. He is super accomplished, super technical. He's a Harvard Business School dropout, which I think is pretty cool because it's got to be pretty tough to get in there. He went to Boston University. He's got a long history in the space. He's done a lot of stuff. I got my Foundation Devices wallet right here. It's not going to be that type of video, of course, because we're talking about his company and we have a bunch of questions from the syndicate, but there is a great video by BTC Sessions if you want to really go through the whole unboxing of it. So I'm here with Zach Herbert today on this Thursday afternoon. Zach, how are you?
I'm doing great. Nice rainy day here in the Boston area.
All right, so we're talking about sovereign computing, sovereign individual. There's a lot of this language
Yeah.
on the Foundation Devices website and deck. And it's not the first time that we've talked about this type of sovereign computing with Lightning Ventures. We are proud investors in Start9 Labs. And not to get to this too soon, but since I just mentioned it, we do have a question here. Are you planning on packaging an Envoy or a comparable app for things like Start9 or Umbrel or these type of services?
So we're not planning on packaging an app necessarily yet, but one of the features that we're really proud of within our Envoy app, which is our passport companion mobile app on iOS and Android, is that you can connect your own node to it. That's something that a lot of wallets have usually further along in the roadmap, but things like Tor connectivity and your own node connection is something that we have already in Envoy. I know we work with Umbrel already. I think we probably worked with the Start9 Embassy product as well, and then also all the other common nodes. So you can choose to connect your own node over Tor within our Envoy app if you don't want to connect to our Electrum servers.
All right. And just to say, I know everyone says it as soon as they get one in their
Yeah.
hand. This feels so sexy.
I'm
This
glad
just
you like
feels
it. Yeah.
next level sexy device here. And the setup was a breeze this morning. Okay, so let's dive right in. The elevator pitch. Why did you decide to start this company? And when did you decide to start this company?
Yeah, so we decided to start this company. I think we were speaking about it back in 2019. The founding team worked together. We were actually working at a company that was doing cryptocurrency mining hardware called Obelisk, and we really wanted to work on something more Bitcoin centric, Bitcoin focused, and we want to be founders. And we had kept talking about hardware wallets. And back in mid 2019, I listened to a podcast with Michael Flaxman on Stefan Livera. I think it was titled something like "Why Every Bitcoin Hardware Wallet Sucks." It's a great episode. I highly recommend it for people to go back and listen to that. And there was like a wish list, like a laundry list of items that they were talking about as like the ideal Bitcoin hardware wallet. Things like being air gapped, which is not something that really any device was back then, like especially with camera and QR codes, being easier to use, having a larger display, supporting the open standard for partially signed Bitcoin transactions, PSBTs, and a bunch of other stuff. So we were like, we know how to do hardware. Like we've been working on hardware for a few years now. Let's start this company and just build the ideal Bitcoin hardware wallet that we want for ourselves. That was, we actually founded the company then in mid-March of 2020, and then we officially got started in April, right as COVID was taken off. So it wasn't the best time to start a company, especially in terms of raising initial capital. But I think it was just we needed to do it. We felt compelled to do it. And since then, it's become more than just like a Bitcoin hardware wallet. It's really become the idea of making it easier, lowering the barrier towards becoming a sovereign individual.
So one of the questions, and this is, at a glance, without doing a deep dive, the first impression is this is a hardware company, right?
Mhm.
This is solely a hardware company. No matter how many times that I put in caps that this is not solely a hardware company, we actually had the same misunderstandings with Start 9,
Of course.
where we dug in on a video. So this is obviously a hardware company, but there is a software component coming down the line. I know a lot of this stuff is still in stealth mode, but what can you share to the questions about the software business, how big it could possibly grow to in the future, and what that looks like?
Yeah, so when we started the company back in early 2020, I think it definitely was a hardware company. We did not have any accompanying software application or services or anything like that. Now we do. So we've been shipping our new Passport Batch 2, for the last few weeks. And we just launched in app stores in the last month or two, an app called Envoy. So Envoy is our mobile companion app for Passport. It really only does two things right now. It allows you to go through the whole onboarding process with Passport, from unboxing to firmware updates and the initial setup. And it also acts as a very simple Bitcoin watch-only wallet, where you connect it with your Passport and you can use it as your software wallet, where your private keys are stored on your hardware wallet, but you still use the app as your software wallet, to send and receive funds. However, we're going to be doing a lot of work over the coming months and years to build out Envoy into a standalone wallet with added revenue generating features. So our goal over the next 12 months or so is to diversify our revenue streams, right? We're not only going to be making money from selling physical devices, we'll also hopefully be making money from services within our mobile application. And as part of that, we're going to be building out Envoy into a standalone Bitcoin software wallet. So you won't need to buy a Passport in order to use one of our products. You'll actually be able to download the Envoy app and use it as a Bitcoin wallet. We're really interested with an Envoy in the general sovereignty experience. An area we're really interested in is privacy. I think that's something that a lot of wallets today have neglected. A lot of wallets today, they try to make it as easy as possible for the user, but they expose the user's personal information, and they don't make it as easy to achieve privacy over your transaction history. I think right now you have like the easy to use wallets, software wallets, that don't necessarily have any privacy features. Then you have the more hardcore wallets like Samurai that are a little too advanced, I think, for most users. So I'm really excited about being able to build out Envoy as a standalone wallet app and bring some cool privacy features that are much more accessible to our iOS and, of course, Android, because we're cross-platform.
Okay, so you heard that the Envoy app will be a Bitcoin wallet, a mobile wallet, without, for those people who don't have a foundation device. And as far as that software business goes, I think that's a great way of putting it, is enhanced Bitcoin privacy as a service. So the name of the game around here is Lightning, and I know that is something that you've touched on. What can you share as far as the future for foundation devices and Lightning integrations?
Yeah, so already one of my favorite apps that integrates with Passport, which has, I think, been integrated for a long time, is Simple Bitcoin Wallet on Android. One thing they did that was so cool, without even really talking to us, actually, which I'm really happy about, is they made it possible to open a Lightning channel directly from your cold storage on Passport. So instead of having to go from like cold to like a hot wallet and then to Lightning, went from cold directly to Lightning via PSBTs, partially signed Bitcoin transactions. And so we are absolutely looking at Lightning within the Envoy app. We're really interested in that kind of magical experience where you can move your money in and out of the Lightning network directly to and from cold storage on your Passport. Our Envoy app is actually built with Block's BDK, Bitcoin Development Kit, on the back end. And of course, they also make LDK, which is the Lightning Development Kit, which has been around for some time. And so when we choose to integrate Lightning into Envoy, we'll definitely be using LDK. We already have plans to do so. So I think the question for us that we're trying to figure out still is, what does the roadmap look like? I'm hoping we'll be able to do that by, next 12 to 18 months at the latest.
Would those swaps be a revenue generator for Foundation?
We were not thinking about it like that at this time. I think there could be some way for us to generate revenue through like assistance with channel management and that kind of thing. But for now, we've mostly been considering revenue generation through, added privacy services and that kind of stuff. Maybe we can offer some kind of subscription that bundles together some of these more advanced features, or whether it's Lightning or privacy or other stuff. So we're definitely looking at the revenue generating capabilities, but like we don't want to just put it behind a paywall to put it behind a paywall, right? We would have to have a really good reason for charging something for it.
All right. So before we get into all the boring stuff that potential investors actually want to talk about, let's talk about some nuts and bolts basics for the hardware wallet and some improvements on
Sure.
the competitive landscape that's out there right now. Is there just a real quick couple of things off the top of your head as to innovations or why Foundation as opposed to Ledger and some of these other things that are out there with a much larger user base?
Yeah. So I would say that we've tried to make the best balance between the design, the user experience, and the security for Passport. I think if you look at the market right now, your options for hardware wallets are typically filled with a bunch of trade-offs. You have the Trezor, which is like open source, but doesn't have a secure element chip. So it doesn't have physical security. You have the Ledger, which has the physical security, but is closed source. And I would argue is kind of hard to use with little buttons and that kind of thing.
It's terrible.
Okay, yeah, I'm not going to say it's terrible, but I would argue
I threw it in the trash. It was
so there
I
it is.
Keep my life savings on that thing. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and then you have other devices that, there's some that are Bitcoin specific. There's some that are like torn down Android devices made in China that are, so there's an array of different options, but nothing really met that balance for me or for us. And so Passport, we try to do it without trade-offs. I'd say the only trade-off might be the cost because it's, around $259 right now. But, Passport has a larger screen, a color screen right now, really vibrant display, makes it so easy to navigate through the device, see your transactions, sign transactions, and so on. We have a physical keypad, and it kind of looks like an old mobile phone, right? And so you don't have to learn how to use the hardware wallet. Like you already know how to use it. You pick it up, you know exactly how to navigate, exactly how to use the device, exactly how to enter your PIN number, and so on. We have a camera because the primary way of doing transactions is actually via QR codes, which is air gapped, which provides a really good security model, meaning there's no wireless communications in here. There's no USB data in here. It actually works so well on mobile applications because you just flash a couple QR codes back and forth and you can set up the device. You can sign a transaction. Works really great with Envoy, with Blue Wallet, with Casa, even over QR codes. So I think that's a huge advantage. We're also fully open source, not just the firmware running on the device, but like all the way down the hardware stack. You can go on our GitHub. You can actually see the circuit schematics, the circuit board design files. You could build the firmware from source yourself. You can make modifications without our permission. I would argue that open source hardware has a better security model than closed source. And then also we manufacture in the USA, which is unique. I think we're the only ones that do that in terms of the hardware wallet landscape, or maybe even like the Bitcoin hardware landscape, period. And I think from a geopolitical perspective, especially for advanced users that like to use different hardware wallets, being able to have an option that is made in the USA, I think is pretty compelling. So that's just a few reasons, a few things that really differentiate Passport. I think the only other big thing I would say is with the multi-sig experience, we have like an unparalleled multi-sig experience in terms of being able to store all the details of your multi-sig configuration on device. You can actually scan an address, a receiving address from your multi-sig wallet, and Passport will tell you if that address belongs to your multi-sig. I don't think that's something that any of the other mainstream hardware wallets do. So we designed Passport to really have that best-in-class multi-sig experience, and we're actively trying to keep up with the latest and greatest in terms of Bitcoin development and features like multi-sig.
Okay, so love it. Made in the USA. Um, that is awesome. All right, so let's do some housekeeping and some boring stuff here. So Foundation Devices is raising a pretty sizable seed round here, and their cap table is rather impressive. Some of these names you may know: Bolt, Third Prime, Animal Ventures, Fulgur, who sponsors darn near every Bitcoin conference out there, and he's probably the first Bitcoin VC, and I respect him a lot.
Yeah.
And this time around, Polychain Capital is investing, and the round is filling up and going rather well. And I want to get to the next question regarding integrations with other future wallets, right? Whatever you can talk about, like you mentioned, the simple Bitcoin wallet, things that are on tap, and how can some of these partnerships with some of these, you mentioned Casa, how can they work further with Foundation?
Yeah, so I think firstly, we have a really different business model than say like a Ledger or Trezor. I think let's take like the Ledger model, for example, where they have their Ledger Live app, and their goal is to push you into the Ledger Live ecosystem. Everything is done within the Live app, and it's not that great of an experience if you don't use the Ledger Live app. It's more of like a controlled experience. It reminds me a bit of like the Apple App Store kind of walled garden vibe. We are different. We want Passport to be integrated with every wallet and service that wants to tack on cold storage. So even though we have our own app, Envoy, Envoy is very opinionated and specific. It's very entry level in terms of its features right now. It's meant for like a very simple, streamlined software wallet experience. It does not compete with like a Blue Wallet or a Casa in terms of features. So we want our users to use Passport with everything. And so the way that we go about integrations is by supporting open standards and open protocols. So for example, we sponsor and we support Blockchain Commons, which is a really cool group that is creating standards, among other things, standards for air gap transactions via QR codes. Using PSBTs and other open standards for breaking up the data and displaying it as multiple QR codes. And that's amazing because that means that if you're a wallet developer or if you're a company building a service, you can actually integrate with Passport without even talking to us if you want to. Now, of course, we're more than happy to help and give you support. And we actually built out for Casa a special, what we call extension within Passport, where you click a toggle within the user interface and you get like a little Casa branded screen that's in purple with their little logo, and provide some extra special customizations for them. But I think the idea is that anyone is able to use PSBTs and integrate directly with Passport. We look at the developers and other companies in the space that are using Passport almost as equal to like our end consumer. And I think we're one of the only ones to do that because Ledger and Trezor will constantly like put out firmware updates that breaks compatibility with things like Casa. And we're much more sensitive about trying to maintain business relationships and be really professional about how we put out updates and how we talk to all the different people using Passport, and make sure that we don't break anything, right, when we release updates. So we were added to Casa a few months ago. They're going to be testing out Passport Batch 2, which is shipping now. And I'm hopeful that they'll decide to be, customers of ours. I'm hopeful that they'll distribute Passport to their users And I'm hopeful that others, like Unchained and anyone that needs to provide hardware wallets or wants to provide hardware wallets to their user base, will choose to work with us and help us customize like extensions for them and allow us to sell them passports and so on.
Okay, so one thing that I think is really unique also is the optional concierge setup for $99. It's a
Yeah.
1 hour private onboarding session. If you have questions or want to set up your passport device. So the question is, first off, do people actually take advantage of that? I mean, these are Bitcoiners. I didn't know if that, number one. And number two, do they get you, Zach?
No, they don't get me.
Are
They
you
get
doing those 1 hour calls yourself?
they get better than me. They get Bitcoin Q&A. So who's a legend in the space, and we're lucky enough to have him on our team as head of support. And so it's actually kind of cool how we do it from a privacy perspective. Like obviously there's potential privacy issues. So Q&A is really good at balancing that. We have had people buy that. We've had, I would say, dozens of purchases of the concierge onboarding. We're still looking at it more as a test. It was inspired by two things. One, obviously, Unchained Capital does something like that. They do like a concierge onboarding product as well, which I thought was pretty cool. But two is my first job out of high school was at the Apple Store, and they had an add-on that back in like 2010 that they were trying to push on everyone, which was the Apple one-on-one support, which was $99, and you got like a one-on-one onboarding session to help you learn how to use a Mac or whatever Apple product it was back then. And I thought that was really cool because you have like a technology, a product that is unfamiliar to a lot of end users, in this case, a hardware wallet and taking self-custody. And I think a lot of the reason why people don't want to use a hardware wallet is because they're afraid. Like they're afraid that they're going to make a mistake during the setup process. They're afraid that they're not going to back it up properly. And so if we can help lower the barriers, and I guess I should say lower like the fear, right? By having a real expert help them get set up with the best defaults and answer any questions that they have. I think that can help a lot in terms of making it easier to onboard and hopefully get more people to buy Passport. So we're only just starting to do this. It's experimental. We haven't decided if we're going to keep it in the long term. It's not really a moneymaker at $99, but we do think it could help people become more sovereign, start off with cold storage, learn how to use the hardware wallet, and hopefully refer their friends and family to buy a Passport as well.
Yeah, it's a nice add-on for someone who needs some help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Zach is pretty sensitive on the batch 2 sales and the 2022 numbers. So we're going to leave that out of this discussion completely. But I think he can discuss the first batch and how that went. And yeah, and then on a follow-up question, I wanted to know the differences. If you could just bullet point a few differences between this iteration and the first one.
For sure.
And I get, you know what, I'll leave it at that. How about that?
Yeah. So we set out with just a team of 4 founders, and we brought the first Passport Founders Edition to market with just the 4 of us. That was before we raised a pre-seed round back in last summer in 2021. So Passport Founders Edition is I would say a little chunkier in terms of comparison with Passport Batch 2. It used AAA batteries instead of a rechargeable lithium-ion battery. It had a monochrome, black and white display. It had an older, maybe not as polished, I would say, user interface. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same product in terms of functionality. So we set out to, we manufactured 1,000 of those. Out of the 1,000 with some inventory fallout and so on, and we still have some just to save for warranty and so on. We shipped just about 950 of those. And so that was about $230,000 worth of revenue without accounting for like taxes or shipping or anything like that. So that was our first product. I think it was really successful. The user feedback was excellent. But there was a wish list of things that we wanted to improve. And so what ended up happening, actually, and I don't think I've talked about this anywhere else, so it's fun information, is that with all the supply chain craziness, we wanted to just keep shipping this model. Like we weren't planning to make any dramatic improvement yet, but the LCD screen supplier told us like, hey, like you're not going to have screens until like mid 2022 at the earliest. And they couldn't even have a delivery date for us. So we were faced with a decision as to whether we keep the exact same design and just find like a screen that was around the same size, as the one we were doing before, or go through that wish list and redesign. And we ended up just deciding to do the redesign. And I'm really excited we did that because it took a few months. I think it made our delivery schedule a little bit later because we ended up doing a whole new user interface, and we had to do all new plastic and metal and all the stuff that goes into building a new product. But that means that we did a rapid hardware iteration in less than a year. And that's really cool for a team, for a small team. At this point, 11, 12 people. And so the new one has it's slimmer, it has a color display, it has a standard form factor lithium ion battery. And we shaved a lot of cost out of it. We shaved like $80 off the cost of building it. Maybe like something like between $70 to $80 we reduced in terms of cost. And so we were able to do a better product, check off a lot of our to-do list, really improve the quality of like the actual production, like the plastic, the hand feel, the screen, all this stuff, and reduce costs. So I think it was the right decision. We're going to be selling and shipping this exact form factor, I think, for some time before we replace it. And we're making 2,400 of them right now. We've sold a really good amount of that 2,400, and we're already planning to do thousands more over the next several months.
That's awesome. So I don't know if I'm unique with my hardware, but I don't like new things. And I had that first Trezor 1.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I mean, it was work to get me on that because I was a paper wallet guy forever.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But, got comfortable with the Trezor. Then I tried them all at the time. Right. Mm-hmm. That's from my class, and threw them all away. And that was it. I never bought the next version Trezor. I will delay doing a software update on my Trezor for like forever.
Not the best idea always, but I get it.
I don't like to do them. I wait, and then once every 2 years or so, you bust out the second one and put them on there. So do you find, or do you have any info on the people who are purchasing the second gen? Are they people who bought the first, mm-hmm. or are they new customers? This is an interesting business because I've had the same hardware wallet since like 2013.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's not something that wears out. It's not tires on a car.
Right.
So like how do you find that? Do you find that it's existing customers that want the new one, or is the market just so big that there's constantly new people flooding in, or they're just lunatics who want one of everything and they want to try?
Well, there's definitely the latter because we know that, and we also know that like we know there's at least one person who like bought multiple of our Founders Edition and has like at least one that was never taken out of the box, right? And so some people want to collect all of them. I would say firstly, it's a hard question for us to answer because we purge our customer information. And so we're not like sitting there tracking and matching up like email addresses and orders and so on. That being said, we gave all of our Founders Edition customers a coupon to purchase a Passport Batch 2. And a really significant chunk of our orders are from Founders Edition customers, which to me is really promising. That's like a significant vote of confidence that we're having, return customers. And we even made our Envoy app work with Founders Edition from day one so that you can link, your hardware wallet from last year from us and then also buy a new one. You see both of them side by side in the app. It's really cool. I don't have exact numbers, but I would say at least like 10 to 20% are, repeat customers. But in terms of like growth potential, the hardware wallet space and like self-custody and sovereignty and all that, it's very early. Like if you were to take the public numbers from Ledger in terms of their sales and try to estimate how many hardware wallets have been sold to date, my guess is that 5 to 10 million of like Ledger, Trezors, and the other ones. I don't really know about like the China companies and that kind of stuff, but in terms of mainstream, you're definitely in like the single digit millions of units. You compare that with like the stats out there for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency users, and that means we're at like a very small percentage in terms of penetrating like the existing market of all cryptocurrency users. And so I hope that a lot of our growth will come from people who have been intimidated with the existing hardware wallets and self custody, have their coins sitting on an exchange, and are starting to wake up to the importance of sovereignty. So my hope is that Bitcoiners who are experts, who use all the hardware wallets, when they're thinking about recommending a product to their friends and family, will consider recommending Passport. And especially because our Envoy app is so easy to use if it's like your first software wallet, where it works perfectly with the hardware wallet. And then you have a really easy experience. It's Bitcoin centric, and you're not compromising on your privacy either. And my hope is that, well, actually, not even hope, like our plan is to tailor a lot of our content over the coming years to those people that are starting to wake up to the importance of sovereignty, but don't really know what to do. And our hope is that we can empower them with self custody.
So I don't want to put everyone to sleep here. um, we'll try to keep it short. But so there's rave reviews everywhere that you look. And there's actually a great review slide in the deck that has a lot of good feedback. And it's funny because somebody in our syndicate, after this deal went out, they said my tweet made the deck. So I thought that was pretty funny. All right, so you mentioned the team a bit earlier. That was a team of 4. Just real quickly, how many are on the team now? Full-time, part-time?
Yeah, now we're 11 full-time and 1 part-time customer support. And we have 5 people onboarding in the next few months, which is pretty exciting. So we're growing the team from 11 full-time to 16 full-time. I don't think we're going to go above 18 at this point in time. We're not, we have a different philosophy than a lot of like venture-backed companies. A lot of venture-backed companies raise around and then just go hire like crazy, and they brag about like the number of people they have. For us, I think we really want to maximize ultimately that revenue per employee metric. We really want to have a multidisciplinary team. I call them like T-shaped, where you're broad in multiple areas and deep in one area. Andy, our head of design, calls them hybrids because everyone is like able to do a lot of different things. But we just want to have this like extremely strong team of A players that are capable of working on an array of disciplines and building an array of different kinds of products. And so I think by end of this calendar year, beginning of next year, we'll be 18. And then we won't look to hire more until either we're like very profitable or until we raise like a Series A.
All right, so let's go through a lightning round of maybe 4 more topics real quick to touch on, and then we can probably wrap this up and it'll be a nice short video. Okay. What is Foundation's distribution strategy? Will they ever use Amazon or other like channels, and the wholesale sales and these sort of things? Affiliate sales. I don't know if you have an affiliate program live at this point in time, but you fulfill all your own orders at this point, right?
We do, and we're looking to even further vertically integrate our supply chain. And so we're direct to consumer right now. I think it's important from like a security perspective. Like we don't want to go through Amazon necessarily because Ledger and Trezor and the others have had a lot of issues in terms of like getting a device that already has like a seed card with the words written in there and people getting scammed. So I think there's a lot of supply chain issues when you're selling a hardware wallet. However, Ledger just announced that they're going into Best Buy, and we're definitely interested in other channels, especially channels that allow customers to buy a passport with cash without providing their personal information. So it's something we're looking at. I don't think it's something we're going to get to within the next like 12 months. I don't think we're at that scale yet, but we do have a network of resellers, and we actually do have a alpha referral program, like a give $10, get $10 called the Passport Ambassador program. We just haven't advertised that yet. We have like a few dozen people participating in that right now. And when we're ready, I think we'll scale that up.
Okay, so just going to go through this real quick. What are your thoughts on some of your competitors adding and integrating exchange services, ways to buy Bitcoin and all sorts of other things that are completely against your privacy focus? What do you think about that?
The place we draw the line is we don't want to collect that user data. So, for example, we're not going to put the ability to buy Bitcoin within our app if it means that we're collecting your KYC data. I don't have the same issue if if an exchange approached us that we liked, let's say like River or someone like that, and they wanted to integrate Passport. I'm okay with that. I just don't want us collecting that data, and I don't want us compromising the user privacy. If we were to integrate something into like Envoy to allow you to buy Bitcoin, I would want it to be something more peer-to-peer or something like Azteco or something like that with vouchers, something that we don't get your information. So that's where we draw the line. It's like if we have to KYC you, it is absolutely not something that we're going to do.
Okay, how about this? Ask Zach if Foundation will ever add liquid or liquid assets. Is this ever a possibility?
In terms of us adding it, I don't think it's something we would do within like the Envoy app. However, as I mentioned, Passport is an open platform, right? With partially signed Bitcoin transactions and so on. And all the code is open source. If Blockstream wanted to integrate Passport into like Green, or I think Aqua is their more simple one for Liquid, I mean, they're more than welcome to do that. And like we would provide support and assistance for that. We're just not going to be focused on that ourselves, right? And that's kind of how we draw the line when we think of support for other things or integrations. You know, we're not going to devote developer resources to do that like ourselves within like our software wallet.
Okay. This is really something that should be in your Telegram channel, but I'll just ask it too. I actually kind of thought about this also. Do you have the ability to change the address type to go back to a legacy address or to use a Tor address? Is that currently in the settings anywhere? It has nothing to do with an investment, but this is what
our Envoy software wallet defaults just to native SegWit. That's just what we do. Just super easy. We default to that. That's all we support. However, you're more than welcome to use Passport with Blue Wallet or Sparrow or Spectre or like any of these software wallets that do allow you to choose what address format you want. So you can go ahead and you can set it up in a way that, I mean, Passport itself can support any address format. It's just that in Envoy, we're defaulting to native SegWit. Much like if you set up a new wallet in Blue Wallet, you don't do any customizations. It'll also put you into like native SegWit by default.
Okay, cool. And finally, what are you most excited about for Foundation Devices? Are you sponsoring any events coming up? Are you going to be at any Bitcoin conferences? Are you doing anything in your travel schedule? And what are you excited about besides shipping a ton of these things?
We're definitely sponsoring a bunch of things. One thing we've started to do is support more local Bitcoin meetups, which I think that is really exciting. We just brought BitDevs back to Boston, actually, and Foundation sponsored that. Lily, our head of business development, has been working with a lot of different local, like small local Bitcoin meetups and small local conferences to help sponsor those and get Passport there physically. And that's something I think is awesome. The idea that, you go to a random Bitcoin meetup in your city and they have like a Passport there. And I think that's awesome. I'd much rather give money towards groups like that are helping with more local Bitcoin education than I would to like give our money to like Google for advertising or Facebook, right? So I'm excited about that. We're sponsoring like Pacific Bitcoin Conference. I know at least a few of us will be there later this year. And we have a bunch of other smaller sponsorships, and team members will be at different conferences. I'm not sure about my specific schedule yet. In terms of our roadmap, like I'm just so excited to be able to bring some, like normalize some of these privacy tools and also diversify revenue and be doing some software services revenue. So I think that right now, like I mentioned at the beginning of our talk, you're stuck, like most people are stuck between making the trade-offs between like an exchange and like compromising their privacy. You're using like easy to use mobile wallets that are also like compromising your privacy. You can see your XPubs and so on. I really want to push a lot of educational content out about why sovereignty is important, why privacy is important, and have a path to actually use use our products to become more sovereign in a way where it's like easy to use and you don't feel like you're using some super advanced tool, and is more accessible to everyone. So cannot wait for our improvements to the Envoy app. And we're obviously always working on new hardware as well. I don't think we're not going to be shipping anything immediately, but I'm really excited for already what'll be the next generation passport sometime in the next year, 2 years, something like that. We don't have an exact roadmap yet.
Okay, so by the way, you should actually run the Bit Devs in Boston if it's anything like New York or some of them.
So I helped run, but we had some great people in the Boston area run it, and then we sponsored it, and I chimed in a bunch as we were going through the agenda. But it was great.
So finally, you're talking about privacy tools, you're talking about software services, and I just want to just tease it out there, ask one more time to see, is there anything that might ever happen with Foundation devices in this world that's maybe not necessarily related to Bitcoin?
Yes, definitely. I've always called us a Bitcoin centric like sovereignty company, basically. So we're not one of those Bitcoin only companies in the sense that we're only making Bitcoin tools. The way I look at it is we're making tools for the sovereign individual, right? And it just so happens that I think Bitcoin is the most important tool and the focus, I think, of everything. However, the stack of tools you need as a sovereign individual goes beyond Bitcoin. You might be using 2FA, you might be using YubiKeys, you might be using password managers, VPNs, encrypted cloud storage, all this stuff in your arsenal, right, to become more sovereign. And a lot of that is hard to use. A lot of that is inaccessible to like normal users. A lot of that is very fragmented, where you might be using 5 to 10 different products or applications. We're definitely looking to try to converge all of that into like a single product suite. So while I think Bitcoin is always going to be at the center of what we do, I think we're hoping to really build out that toolkit that you need to become more sovereign.
Awesome. That was much more of an answer than I was expecting to get out of you.
Yeah, well, it's nothing concrete yet, right? Like we're pretty focused and like we have a lot to do even in the next year just to build out Envoy as a standalone wallet. But I think it's important that we're thinking about this stuff like as we look at the next few years.
All right, cool. Well, that does it for us here. And I want to thank you, Zach, for letting us participate. And I hope that we can support and champion your company moving forward. It's really been a fast-moving, awesome deal for the syndicate. And I know we got a lot of people here that are investing and very excited about what you're doing. So thanks for taking some time and chatting and all that good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, everyone.